Oh, good evening. My name is Patrick Smith, and this is Movie Club. Tonight, I'm delighted to welcome you here to yet another incredible screening. But before we get started, I'd like to introduce you to something that's going to be happening for the rest of these 4 weeks, including tonight. We're about to begin a short film series called Black Voices in Cinema, which we will use to celebrate the voices of a more marginalized community and to put some more complicated ideas that may make you uncomfortable at the forefront. This film series will endeavor to uncover and help us understand the systems of racism that are present in our world right now. All these systems go to push minority communities down and raise up white people, and that all these forms of racism are forms of white supremacy that are engendered and put into our society. And it's things that we need to take a long, hard look at in the mirror and see which of these systems are we complacent in. And I think these films will help us do that. And that's why tonight, I'm not going to take a long time to introduce our screening for this evening, but I did want to introduce this series because I do think it's important to engage with this material. Before I introduce tonight's screening, I would like to admit one little fault with this particular series. It is a blind spot of my own that I'm not more familiar with black or minority cinema in the 20th century. Cinema's been around for a very long time, and black people have been a part of cinema for almost as long as it's been around. Yet all of these films are from the 2010s. And that hurts my heart that I'm not more aware of these films or more ready and able to celebrate voices from the 1930s creating incredible films. And because of that, I'm going to recommend that you take advantage of what the Criterion Collection is putting out in front of their paywall right now. Access to all kinds of different movies from across cinema's history and celebrate black voices throughout cinema. So these few films, I still will wholeheartedly say, are genuine classics. They may not have all this history behind them yet, but one day when we look back and think about these films from the 2010s, I think we'll realize just how important they were to these conversations and how they forced us to deal with incredibly hard things, and that they made people like me very uncomfortable and, in a way, ready to have these conversations. So without further ado, let me introduce tonight's screening, and that is the incredible film from this year, Just Mercy, directed by Destin Cretton.
Y'all got me confused with somebody, and I think
I got you confused with nobody.
I don't have a thing to do with this.
A little bit of background on this film. It's centered around the work of the Equal Justice Initiative, which is an incredible organization that works to free people who've been put on death row wrongly. It gives them the resources to fight their legal battles free of charge.
He has dedicated his life to fighting for justice, getting 135 people off death row. Critics say the death penalty is biased and flawed. Data suggests that for every 9 people executed, 1 has been exonerated.
This incredible work is headed up by none other than Bryan Stevenson, a fantastic lawyer and an even better human who fights for the rights of everyone, including the people that our society just wishes to push to the side. It would be severely understating it to say that Bryan Stevenson is not a huge part of why this series is happening. Bryan Stevenson is a huge part of why I want to have these conversations, why I want to deal with my own internalized racism.
Hearing Bryan share his vision with Michael B. and hearing Michael B. relate to it was such a touching and moving experience.
And it all goes back to an event I worked at the college that I attended a couple years ago at Stanford University. Bryan Stevenson was there to deliver a talk based on his book and the prison system that he works so hard to help heal and to deal with the issues that are engendered in a huge part of it. And his words and his work really struck me, because it was not only that brief talk that he gave and the brief moments that I got to meet him in person, although I'd highly doubt that he'd remember me, that inspired me to start digging more into this, because I realized that I had a lot of ideas about how our prison system worked. I just believed that it was good most of the time. What it turns out is that so many people, so many black bodies are forced back into this form of slavery for crimes that most white people are able to get away with. And that's just not right. And that's why I am so incredibly passionate about the work that Bryan Stevenson is doing with the Equal Justice Initiative, and his entire team deserves to be commended. The week that I briefly met Bryan, I also went to Netflix and watched Ava DuVernay's incredible documentary film, 13th. And if you haven't seen that, I'd wholeheartedly recommend doing a double feature. Both of these films are available for free right now, with 13th even being available on YouTube. So if you have Netflix or YouTube, they're available to you right now, because this story is important. It's incredibly important to the conversations we're having right now in our country. And I think to ignore such a fantastic movie like this would be a shame. The incredible dramatic performances by Michael B. Jordan and Jamie Foxx and Brie Larson are all worthy of awards, and that's why tonight's film is so incredibly important. And so, without further ado, please enjoy tonight's screening of Destin Daniel Cretton's 2020 film, Just Mercy.